The great human starship Resolute drifted quietly through the black sea of space, its silver hull reflecting faint light from distant stars. It was a ship built for diplomacy as much as defense. On this day, the crew prepared for an event none of them would ever forget: the arrival of the Valorian envoy. The Valorians were one of the most ancient and powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They were elegant, mysterious, and known for their unmatched knowledge of science and culture. Humanity had only recently been invited to speak before the Galactic Council, and even then, many alien empires doubted if humans belonged among them. This meeting could change everything. Captain Adrian Hayes stood on the bridge staring at the glowing display screens. His posture was steady, but inside he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. This was more than a meeting. This was humanity's chance to prove itself. "Envoy ship detected," reported Lieutenant Mira, her hands flying over the controls. "They are docking now." A low hum filled the Resolute as the alien vessel connected. Adrian inhaled deeply. He straightened his uniform and glanced at his crew. "Everyone, remember, this is history." The doors opened with a soft hiss, and for a moment silence fell across the chamber. The figure that entered seemed almost unreal. Lady Seraphis of the Valorians stepped forward. Her form shimmered faintly, as though she carried with her the light of stars. Her long robes shifted like liquid silver, and her eyes glowed with a pale blue radiance that seemed to see far deeper than the surface. Her face was calm, noble, and strangely beautiful, even to human eyes, though she was not of their kind. The crew stood frozen. Some bowed slightly, others simply stared. Adrian felt his throat dry as he watched her graceful steps. He had seen holograms of Valorians before, but never in person. None of the images had captured this presence, this quiet power that seemed to wrap around her like a cloak. And then, in a moment he would later wish he could take back, the words slipped out. "Wow, she's gorgeous," he whispered under his breath. "I wish I had a wife like her." He thought no one had heard. The crew was too focused, the moment too heavy. But Seraphis stopped. Her head tilted ever so slightly, her glowing eyes turning toward him. Adrian's heart froze. Did she hear me? He thought, panic rushing through him. The envoy's lips curved just barely, almost like a smile, but her expression remained unreadable. She walked closer, her presence filling the chamber. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, melodic, yet carried a strength that made every ear focus. "Your honesty is unusual," Seraphis said, her gaze lingering on Adrian. "Humans whisper more loudly than they realize." The crew shifted uncomfortably, some glancing at their captain with wide eyes. Adrian's face burned red. Of all the things to say in front of the most important alien diplomat, this was the worst. He cleared his throat, standing straighter. "My apologies, Lady Seraphis. It was not meant as disrespect." For a moment, silence stretched. Adrian expected anger, perhaps even insult. But instead, Seraphis studied him with quiet interest, as if examining a rare crystal. "Among my people," she said slowly, "words are weighed carefully. Yet here I find a human who lets truth fall freely, even when uninvited. It is curious." Adrian did not know if that was good or bad, but he chose to bow his head respectfully. "We value honesty," he said, "even if it sometimes arrives clumsily." A soft sound escaped Seraphis, perhaps a laugh, though it was hard to tell. She moved past him, her silver robes brushing lightly as she walked deeper into the ship. The crew exhaled in relief. Lieutenant Mira leaned toward Adrian and whispered, "Captain, you may have just started first contact diplomacy with a compliment." "Not funny," Adrian muttered, though he could feel his ears burning. The formal reception began in the grand chamber of the Resolute. Holographic banners shimmered along the walls displaying Earth's history, the rise of cities, the first moon landing, the great exploration into the stars. Food and drink from human culture were carefully prepared, though no one knew if Seraphis would even taste them. Adrian stood at the center, addressing the envoy. "Lady Seraphis, on behalf of humanity, we welcome you aboard the Resolute. It is an honor to host a representative of the Valorian Empire." Seraphis's glowing eyes swept across the chamber, pausing on each display. "You have grown quickly," she said. "Faster than most species. Many in the council doubt such speed can last." Adrian nodded. "We are young, yes, but our strength lies in learning, adapting, and dreaming of more. That is what brought us here." Her gaze returned to him. "And honesty, perhaps. Adrian nearly flinched at the reminder of his earlier whisper. But the envoy's tone was not harsh. It was reflective, almost thoughtful. As the evening continued, Seraphis asked questions that surprised the humans. She did not ask only about their weapons or technology, but about families, music, and why humans formed such strong bonds of love. Lieutenant Mira answered carefully, describing how humans built homes, raised children, and dreamed of futures together. Seraphis listened intently as though these ideas were new to her. "Strange," Seraphis murmured once. "Your people fight, and yet you speak so warmly of tenderness. You reach for the stars, yet whisper about companionship." Her words made Adrian shift uncomfortably. He wondered if she still thought about what he had said. The night grew late. When the envoy finally returned to her ship, she paused at the doorway. She turned once more to Adrian. "Captain Hayes," she said softly, "your whisper was clumsy, but not empty. I will remember it." Then she was gone, leaving only the faint glow of her presence behind. After the meeting, the crew gathered in the officers' lounge, buzzing with nervous laughter and relief. "You're lucky she didn't take offense," one officer said. "Or declare war," another joked. Adrian rubbed his forehead. "Next time someone remind me to keep my thoughts to myself." But inside, he could not shake the feeling that something important had begun. For reasons he did not yet understand, the envoy of one of the galaxy's greatest empires had taken interest in him, not because of speeches, not because of strategy, but because of a simple, unguarded whisper. And in the vast silence of space, sometimes a whisper could echo farther than anyone expected. The Resolute sailed quietly across the stars, its engines humming like a steady heartbeat. Days had passed since the visit of Lady Seraphis, yet the memory of her presence lingered in the minds of the crew. For Captain Adrian Hayes, it was more than memory. It was a weight he carried with both dread and wonder. He could not forget her words. "Your whisper was clumsy, but not empty. I will remember it." Adrian often caught himself replaying the moment. His whisper had been foolish, yet somehow it had sparked something unexpected. Instead of offense, the envoy had shown curiosity. It unsettled him. Why would a figure as powerful as Seraphis waste her thoughts on a simple human captain? The bridge crew noticed changes too. Whenever a message came from the Valorian envoy ship, officers exchanged knowing glances. Mira, his sharp-witted lieutenant, teased him quietly once. "Captain," she said, leaning closer, "you realize she asked for you by name each time? Not the human commander, she says Adrian Hayes. That is unusual." Adrian frowned. "Maybe it's just diplomacy. Or maybe," Mira said with a small smirk, "she remembers the whisper." Adrian shook his head, though he could not deny the truth. Seraphis did remember, and each new exchange between them proved it. Later that week, Seraphis requested a private tour of Earth's cultural archives stored aboard the Resolute. It was not a usual request. Most alien envoys wanted to see weapons, engines, or tactical data, but Seraphis wanted to learn about music, art, and family traditions. Adrian guided her himself. They walked slowly through the long chamber filled with glowing displays. Ancient paintings hovered in light panels, old songs played softly through the speakers, and holograms showed moments of human history. "This," Adrian explained, pointing to a display, "is the Mona Lisa, a painting made on Earth over 700 years ago. People still admire it today." Seraphis studied the image of the woman's faint smile. Her glowing eyes narrowed slightly. "So simple, yet it holds the gaze. Humans find beauty in mystery?" "Yes," Adrian said. "We often value what we cannot fully understand." They moved on. Another panel showed families gathered at a dining table, laughing and sharing food. Seraphis paused longer at this image. "What is this gathering?" she asked. "A family dinner," Adrian replied. "It is common among us. People sit together, share meals, and speak about their lives." "Why?" He blinked at the question. "Because it builds connection. It reminds us we belong to each other." Seraphis tilted her head. "Belong to each other. Strange. Among my people, families are arranged for purpose, not emotion. Bonds are duty, not warmth." Adrian hesitated. "And do you prefer it that way?" Her expression was unreadable, but her voice softened. "I have never been asked what I prefer. Duty decides." Something in her words struck Adrian deeply. For the first time, he wondered if Seraphis carried her own quiet loneliness beneath her glowing eyes. Back on the bridge later, Mira whispered to Adrian, "Captain, she's asking questions no Valorian should care about." "You know what this means?" "It means trouble," Adrian muttered. "Or it means she sees something in us the Council doesn't." Adrian remained silent. He knew Mira was right. Humanity was often judged by their wars, their mistakes, and their youth. But Seraphis had seen something else, something raw, emotional, human. And she wanted to know more. News soon reached the Resolute from the Galactic Council. A debate had begun. Should humanity be admitted as equal members, or should they remain as observers, forever beneath the greater powers? Some empires argued that humans were too unpredictable, too reckless. They feared humanity's rapid growth, their hunger to explore. Others dismissed them as a species that burned bright but would fade quickly. Only a few voices spoke in their favor. To Adrian's surprise, one of them was Seraphis. Reports from council messengers carried her words. Humans may be reckless, but they are honest. Their emotions are not weakness, but strength. They carry bonds that even war cannot break. When the crew heard this, they erupted with pride. "She defended us," Mira said with wide eyes. "Do you know what that means? A Valorian standing for humanity, it's unheard of." Adrian, however, felt conflicted. He appreciated her defense, but he also worried. Why was she risking her position for them? What if it backfired? That evening, Adrian found himself alone on the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly across the glass dome, silent and eternal. He stood there lost in thought when a soft voice interrupted. "Do humans often whisper to the stars as well?" He turned. Lady Seraphis stood there, glowing faintly in the dim light. Adrian smiled faintly. "Not whisper. But we look at them and wonder. Every star feels like a question we haven't answered yet." Seraphis stepped closer, her silver robes brushing the floor. "My people do not wonder. We calculate. We measure. There is no room for longing. And do you like that?" Adrian asked carefully. Her eyes met his. "Again, you ask what I prefer. Strange human. No one in the council ever asks me such things." Adrian shrugged lightly. "Maybe they should. You're more than just an envoy." For the first time, Seraphis's calm expression softened. "And you are more than just a captain who whispers clumsy words." They both stood quietly for a moment, staring at the sea of stars. It felt as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Finally, Seraphis said, "Captain Hayes, tell me, why do humans speak so openly of love? I hear it in your songs, see it in your paintings, even in your careless whispers. Why does it matter so much to you?" Adrian thought carefully before answering. "Because love gives meaning to everything else. Without it, our victories are hollow and our struggles are empty. Love is what makes us fight for tomorrow." Seraphis did not respond right away. She turned her gaze to the stars again, as if searching for something she could not find. But even as this bond grew, danger brewed elsewhere. Reports came of factions within the Council calling humanity a threat to galactic balance. Some even whispered of removing them before they became too powerful. When Adrian received this report, his stomach tightened. Humanity's place among the stars was not secure. They had few allies and too many enemies waiting for a mistake. Yet now, for reasons he could not explain, one of the most powerful envoys in the galaxy had chosen to see them differently, and her curiosity was becoming dangerous for both of them. As Adrian stood on the bridge watching messages stream in, he realized the truth. His foolish whisper had started something larger than he could have imagined. It had opened a door. A door between humanity and the Valorians, a door between honesty and duty. And maybe, just maybe, a door that could decide the future of the galaxy. And behind that door stood Seraphis, listening, questioning, and perhaps, for the first time in her long life, wondering. The Galactic Council chamber floated above a swirling nebula, a great station of silver towers and glowing domes. It was here that the fate of entire species was decided, and it was here that humanity's place in the galaxy now stood on trial. For weeks, Captain Adrian Hayes and his crew aboard the Resolute had heard rumors. Some said humans would be granted equal status among the stars. Others claimed they would be cast aside, forever seen as reckless children playing with fire. But the truth became clear the day Seraphis called Adrian into a private meeting. They sat together in a quiet chamber aboard the Valorian envoy ship. The walls shimmered with pale blue light, humming softly with energy. Seraphis sat with her usual calm grace, but her eyes carried a tension Adrian had not seen before. The council is divided, she said at last. Some believe your people are dangerous. Others think you are too fragile. Both sides underestimate you. Adrian leaned forward. And where do you stand? Seraphis' gaze lingered on him. I told them what I saw aboard your ship. A people who fight but also laugh, who dream but also sacrifice. I reminded them of your honesty, even when unwise. Adrian's face grew warm. You mean... The whisper. Her lips curved faintly, not quite a smile, but close. Yes, that whisper revealed more about humans than all your speeches. You speak from the heart even when you do not mean to. That is rare in this galaxy. Adrian hesitated. And did they listen? Seraphis' expression darkened. Some did. But others fear what honesty may bring. They believe feelings lead to chaos. A week later, the council gathered. Adrian and his crew watched through a great holoscreen aboard the Resolute. The chamber appeared enormous. Alien leaders of countless forms sat in circles, their voices layered in dozens of languages, all translated by the system. The vote was near. Humanity's name echoed across the chamber like a question. One delegate spoke. Humans expand too quickly. In 2 centuries they have leapt from their moon to the stars. They are reckless, another answered. They are fragile. Their lifespans are short. Their wars bloody. They are not ready for responsibility. Then came Seraphis. Her silver form rose and the chamber grew quiet. Even the proudest rulers leaned forward to listen. She spoke clearly, her voice carrying calm strength. Humans are reckless, yes. They are fragile, yes. But they are also more than these things. They love, they dream, and they endure. I have walked their halls. I have heard their songs. I have seen their captain speak without fear, even when embarrassed. This is not weakness. This is humanity. Her words echoed across the chamber. Some delegates nodded thoughtfully. Others frowned, but Adrian, watching from afar, felt his chest tighten. She had used his whisper, his foolish slip of honesty, as an example before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and somehow it had not shamed him. It had lifted his people. Later, as the council recessed, Adrian's crew cheered. She defended us again, Mira said, her eyes bright. Do you know what this means, Captain? She's risking everything for us. Adrian nodded slowly. Yes, and that makes me worry even more. Because he knew such bold words could not pass without consequences. The consequences came sooner than expected. A message arrived from an unknown source hidden in the council's network. Adrian read it in silence, his jaw tightening. It was a threat. A warning that humanity should leave the council before they were forced out by harsher means. When he showed it to Mira, she gasped. Someone's planning against us. Adrian nodded grimly. And against Seraphis, too. They don't like that she speaks for us. The next day, Seraphis visited the Resolute again. She stood with Adrian on the observation deck, the stars shining through the glass. They will not forgive me, she said softly. Already voices whisper that I have forgotten my duty to my own kind. Adrian looked at her carefully. Why defend us then? Why risk yourself? She turned toward him, her glowing eyes steady. Because you remind me of something my people have lost. We once spoke with passion. We once dreamed as you do. Now we only calculate. We are powerful, yes, but hollow. You humans, you are alive in ways we are not. Adrian felt her words sink deep. For a moment, silence hung between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Then she asked the question that startled him most. Adrian Hayes, tell me this, your whisper about wishing for a wife. Was it only clumsy words, or does it speak of what you truly seek? Adrian froze. He had not expected her to ask so directly. His heart raced. But he forced himself to answer honestly. It was both, he admitted. Clumsy, yes. But true also. Humans long for connection, for someone who sees us as more than our rank, our duty, or our strength. That is what I wished for. For the first time, Seraphis seemed unsettled. Her hands tightened slightly and her voice grew softer. Strange, that such a wish should sound powerful to me. But before their conversation could deepen, alarm sounded across the Resolute. Mira's voice came through the comms. Captain, we've intercepted a fleet approaching at high speed. They are not friendly. Adrian straightened instantly. How many? 4 warships. Unknown faction, but they carry council designs. Someone's trying to silence us. Seraphis' expression hardened. They mean to erase your voice before the vote is cast. Adrian nodded grimly. And maybe yours as well. The Resolute shook as distant blasts lit up the darkness of space. The rift among the stars had grown into open danger, and now both humanity and Seraphis stood at the center of it. The void of space stretched endlessly around the Resolute, dark and silent except for the distant shimmer of distant stars. But the calm was only an illusion. Alarms blared, warning lights flashed, and the ship shook as enemy warships emerged from the black, moving with deadly precision. Captain Adrian Hayes gripped the bridge console tightly. 4 warships, each larger than the Resolute, had breached the outer security perimeter. They bore the insignia of rogue factions within the Galactic Council, aliens who had not forgiven the humans' rise or Seraphis's defense of them. "Lieutenant Mira," Adrian barked. "Status report." Mira's fingers danced over the controls, shields holding at 70%. Weapon systems online. They're closing fast, range 20,000 kilometers and decreasing. Adrian exhaled slowly. "Divert power to forward shields and prepare evasive maneuvers. Bring Seraphis to the tactical center." Moments later, Seraphis appeared on the bridge, her silver robes flowing like liquid light. Her eyes glowed softly, but there was determination in her stance. "They want to erase you, Adrian Hayes," she said calmly. "And they will not hesitate to erase me too." Adrian met her gaze. "Then we fight. Humanity doesn't run, and neither do our friends." The first blast hit the Resolute. Hull plating screamed under the fire, and sparks shot across the bridge as energy shields flared. Adrian barked orders with precision. "All batteries return fire. Target their engines first, then weapon systems. Keep them at a distance." The crew worked in unison. Their fear transformed into determination. Mira called out updates, sensors pinging across the bridge. "Captain, their formation is tight. They're trying to split us from the Valorian envoy ship." Seraphis's lips curved faintly. "Then we shall not let them." Adrian's mind raced. Humanity had always relied on creativity and adaptability, traits the Valorians admired but rarely practiced themselves. The rogue faction expected a predictable response. Humans would flee, fight blindly, or surrender. Instead, Adrian tapped into what humanity did best: improvisation. "Initiate the memory protocol," he ordered. Mira's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "Yes. Trust me." The memory protocol was a new human innovation, an experimental system designed to broadcast the collective knowledge, culture, and memories of Earth across multiple channels. It was meant to preserve humanity in case of disaster. But now Adrian hoped it could do more than preserve. It could inspire and perhaps even repel the enemy. As the Resolute powered up the protocol, a soft hum filled the bridge. Images of Earth cities, music, art, and stories began streaming outward through the ship's energy field. The enemy ships were bathed in waves of culture, light, and sound unlike anything they had encountered. The rogue commanders paused, confused by what they saw. Their attacks faltered, their formations breaking as the memory protocol reached them. Humanity's history, dreams, and achievements flooded their sensors, not as weapons, but as a force that resonated deep within. Seraphis's voice rang clear over the comms. "Do not underestimate them. Humans fight with more than weapons, they fight with spirit." Adrian gritted his teeth and pressed on. "Keep firing selectively. Distract them, keep them off balance. The memory protocol will weaken them, but we need to hit their engines or we'll never survive." The bridge crew worked feverishly, moving in perfect rhythm. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and through it all Adrian's voice guided them. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity. Explosions rocked the Resolute, but the human creativity combined with Seraphis's tactical insight began turning the tide. One by one, the enemy ships faltered under the combined power of precision attacks and the unexpected force of humanity's culture, streaming at them. Adrian noticed the largest of the 4 warships beginning to retreat. "They're breaking formation. Focus fire on the rear ships." Mira nodded, her hands moving faster than ever. "Targeting engines, now!" A series of coordinated blasts hit the enemy vessels, causing them to spiral out of control. The rogue fleet wavered, stunned by what they could only describe as a new kind of warfare, one not reliant on destruction alone, but on the strength of human memory, creativity, and heart. Seraphis stepped beside Adrian, her eyes shining with a mixture of relief and admiration. "You were right," she said softly. "It is not brute force that saves humans, it is the courage to share who they are completely and without fear." Adrian nodded. "We fight because we have to. But more than that, We fight because we believe in something worth protecting. That's what makes us strong. Even amid the chaos, the bridge crew smiled faintly at his words. Humanity was fighting not just to survive, but to be remembered, and in that they had an unexpected power. The last of the enemy ships disengaged, retreating into the darkness. The Resolute shook from the final shockwaves, and the bridge went silent except for the hum of systems still working tirelessly. Adrian took a deep breath, letting the tension slip from his shoulders. "Status?" he asked. Mira checked the displays. "Shields down to 40%. Minor hull damage. Weapons operational. No casualties." "Good," Adrian said. He glanced at Seraphis. "And you?" She nodded. "Unharmed. I saw what humans can do, and I will never doubt again." Later, in the quiet after battle, Adrian and Seraphis walked together along the observation deck. The stars stretched infinitely before them, calm once more after the storm of conflict. "You did more than survive," Seraphis said. "You showed the galaxy what humanity truly is." Adrian shook his head. "It was all of us. Every crew member, every ship, every story we shared in the memory protocol. It was what made them falter. Humans fight with heart, and sometimes that is stronger than any weapon." Seraphis looked at him thoughtfully. "It is strange. I have lived for centuries, and I have never seen power used this way. You do not rely on fear or rules alone. You rely on something deeper." Adrian smiled faintly. "It's called hope and love. The same things we whisper about, even when we think no one hears." Her gaze softened, and for a moment, there was no distance between species, only understanding. "Your whisper, Captain Hayes," she said. A faint glimmer in her eyes was the first step. "I saw you, and in that moment I understood your people. That is why I stood for you in the council. That is why we survived today." Adrian swallowed, feeling the weight of her words. A simple whisper, a small expression of human longing, had started a chain of events that changed the course of history. And in the silence of space, humanity had spoken louder than any cannon, brighter than any star. As the Resolute limped back to safer space, repairs underway, Adrian gathered his crew. They were tired, some bruised by the battle, but their spirits were unbroken. "We faced one of the greatest threats the galaxy has seen," he said, "and we survived. Not just because of our weapons, but because we are human. We dream, we hope, we share, and we never give up. That is our strength." The crew cheered, their voices echoing through the ship. Even Mira smiled, shaking her head at the captain's speech. Seraphis stepped forward, addressing the humans. "I have seen the courage of your hearts, the brilliance of your minds, and the warmth of your souls. You are not just a species to be tolerated. You are a species to be remembered." Adrian felt pride swell in his chest. Humanity had not just survived, they had left an impression on the galaxy, one that would not soon be forgotten. And through it all, he could not help but think back to that first whisper, soft and clumsy as it had been. Who would have thought that one small moment of honesty could lead to this? Perhaps he realized the stars themselves had been listening. The aftermath of the battle left space around the Resolute eerily quiet. The rogue fleet had retreated, scattered and broken, their threat diminished for now. Yet the memory of the fight lingered in every crew member's mind, the roar of energy blasts, the flares of fire, and the soft glow of the memory protocol streaming across the enemy's ships. Captain Adrian Hayes stood on the observation deck, watching stars drift like silent witnesses. The battle had been won, but the war for humanity's recognition was far from over. The Galactic Council would debate again, and there would be those who still doubted them. Yet a new force had emerged, something stronger than mere weapons, stronger than speed or armor, the courage and heart of humans. Beside him, Lady Seraphis remained quiet, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars. She had grown closer to humanity in these days than she had anticipated, not as an observer but as a participant. The memory protocol had shown her what humans were truly capable of, not just their tactics but their spirit. "You did well," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Your people have shown that they are more than capable of standing among the stars." Adrian smiled faintly. "We survived. But more importantly, we showed that who we are matters, not just as fighters, but as humans." Seraphis nodded, her gaze distant. "In my long life, I have seen countless civilizations rise and fall. Many had technology, strength, and armies, but few had what your species carries. I now understand why some have whispered that humanity is special. Not because of what you can destroy, but because of what you can inspire. The council session resumed days later aboard the grand station orbiting the nebula. Delegates gathered from hundreds of species, their holographic forms shimmering with impatience and curiosity. The rogue factions who had attacked humanity still spoke against them, their voices sharp, accusing, and harsh. Humans cannot be trusted. One alien shouted. Their emotions will cloud judgment. They will make mistakes that threaten the entire galaxy. Another rose to add. They are too fragile. One small war, one accident, and they will fall. They are not ready to join the council. Then Seraphis rose, her silver form radiant, glowing faintly from her inner energy. She spoke calmly, firmly, and without hesitation. Fragile? She asked, her glowing eyes sweeping across the chamber. Have you forgotten the courage displayed by the Resolute and her crew? Have you forgotten how they defended themselves not through brute force alone, but with their heart, their memories, and their culture? She turned her gaze slightly, acknowledging Adrian without words. Then she addressed the council fully. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but unpredictability comes from their ability to hope. They fight not only for survival, but for connection. They inspire loyalty, courage, and even reflection in those around them. I have witnessed their truth firsthand. I have heard a whisper of honesty, and it revealed more than any speech. I tell you now, humanity is worthy of its place among the stars. Remember them not for their weaknesses, but for their strengths, the strength of their hearts. The chamber went silent. Whispers floated through the air like soft echoes. Many delegates looked down, ashamed of their doubts. Others nodded slowly, realizing the truth in Seraphis's words. Humanity had proven itself, not in firepower alone, but in spirit. Back aboard the Resolute, Adrian and his crew watched the session live through holographic screens. Cheers erupted as the council voted. Humanity had been admitted as an equal power, their seat secure, their place among the stars finally recognized. Mira turned to Adrian, her eyes wide. We did it, Captain. We're officially recognized. Adrian let out a long breath. We did it. But this isn't just our victory. This is everyone's. The crew, our families back home, Seraphis, and all those who believed in humanity's heart. Even as celebrations filled the ship, Adrian felt a quiet moment of reflection. He thought back to that first whisper, the simple words spoken in awe, perhaps foolishly, but honestly. Who would have guessed that those words, soft and clumsy, had helped spark a chain of events that led to this moment? Later, Adrian found himself once again on the observation deck, staring at the distant stars. Seraphis joined him, her presence calm and steady. You have grown, she said softly, from clumsy words to actions that shaped the galaxy. I have seen humanity's heart, and it is powerful. Adrian smiled faintly. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. Every story, every song, every memory shared. It became something bigger than ourselves. That's what the stars remember. Seraphis's eyes glimmered, reflecting the constellations. Then perhaps I can say this. Your whisper was the first spark. From it, the galaxy has learned a lesson that cannot be erased. Humans are not only survivors, they are inspirers. The stars will remember your people as I will. Adrian's chest tightened. I never imagined one simple thought could lead to this. Sometimes, Seraphis said, the simplest truth has the greatest power. Days passed. Humanity began to establish embassies, allies, and new friendships across the galaxy. Species who had doubted them before now approached with cautious respect. Some sought to learn from humans. Others merely observed, curious about how such a young species could rise so quickly. Through it all, Adrian and Seraphis continued their quiet partnership. They exchanged ideas, shared strategies, and occasionally allowed themselves moments of genuine laughter and insight. Humanity and the Valorians had formed a bond neither side had expected, a bond that bridged worlds, languages, and lifetimes. Adrian often thought about the future. Humanity was young and many challenges lay ahead, but for the first time he felt a sense of certainty. No matter the dangers humans would endure, they would dream, fight, and inspire, leaving their mark among the stars. One quiet evening as Adrian and Seraphis stood on the observation deck together, he remembered again his original whisper. He spoke softly, almost as if to himself. You heard me, he said. Seraphis turned, a faint smile in her glowing eyes. Yes, and I understood it. More than that, I understood your people, That simple truth was enough to show me the depth of humanity's heart. Adrian nodded, his gaze sweeping across the stars. And now the galaxy knows it too. Perhaps in time, every species will remember that strength is not only in power but in honesty, hope, and connection. Seraphus's voice was soft, but filled with certainty. I will remember, Adrian Hayes, and I will tell others what I have seen. Humans are not just a species, they are a story worth sharing. The stars themselves will remember. Adrian looked at her and smiled. For the first time in weeks, he felt entirely at peace. Humanity had not only survived, they had been remembered. And perhaps the greatest truth of all was that the smallest actions, even a whisper, could echo farther than any starship or weapon ever could. As they stood together, watching the endless galaxies drift by, Adrian realized that the journey had only just begun. Humanity would explore, dream, and inspire for centuries to come, and somewhere, in the vast silence of space, their stories would echo forever, remembered by all who witnessed them, including Lady Seraphus, and the stars themselves. And in that quiet understanding, Adrian whispered once more, this time intentionally, this time with hope. Humanity is ready for the stars. Seraphus's eyes glimmered in acknowledgement. Yes, and the stars will never forget you. The Resolute sailed forward, steady and proud, carrying humanity and their stories into the endless sky. And for the first time, Adrian knew that even a small whisper could change the fate of worlds if spoken with honesty and heart.